Hi guys, hope you're doing well. I miss you. This video is to help remind you how to solve inequalities. We were working on that before we headed off, so just wanted to do a little bit of review with you. The paper that I sent you has both the reminder, has some class practice that we'll work on now together, and then some solo practice for you to do to turn into me, okay? So the most important thing is to remember that we solve inequalities just like equations, except we have to flip the inequality sign whenever we multiply or divide by a negative number. So every time, ask yourself whether that's happening, okay? So the first one looks like this. 5x plus 2 is less than or equal to 17. Right? I gotta isolate the x, so the first thing I'm gonna do is subtract 2 from both sides. And that leaves me 5x is less than or equal to 15. Now what do I do to get the x by itself? Divide by 5. Now, am I multiplying or dividing by a negative number? Nope. So the sign stays the same. So that would be x is less than or equal to 3. Now remember, how do I graph that? Don't do what I did. Make sure that the numbers go in order. Lower numbers to the left, higher numbers to the right. So I go to the 3. Because it's also equal to, I fill it in. And then which numbers are less than 3? There we go. Okay. Number 2. Pretty similar. First thing I'm going to do is add 3 to both sides. Now I need to get x by itself. So to undo that, I'm going to divide by negative 2. Oh, that's right. I just said I was going to divide by negative 2. So what does that mean? Flip the inequality. So suddenly that becomes that. And a negative divided by a negative is a positive. Okay. So again, it's equal to again, so I'm going to fill it in. And then numbers that are greater than 5 will head to the right. Now this one looks a little tricky. It starts the same. The first thing I'm going to do is get rid of that 1. So how do I do that? I subtract both sides. Now the question is, how do I get rid of this? Well, currently it's being divided by, x is being divided by 4, so what's the opposite of divided by? I multiply. What happens on this side? That goes away. And I'm left with x is greater than 80. So now when I graph that, now it's greater than, it's not equal to, so I do an open circle, and the numbers that are greater than head to the right. Okay, so that's that graphed. Okay. You can pause there if you need to catch up, but I'm going to go ahead and erase and put the next 3 practice problems. Okay. Okay, let's do these 3 together and then you're on your own. All right, now this one's a little trickier. We haven't seen one that looks like this yet. What's the first thing I'm going to do? I can't get rid of that yet. I have to deal with this. So the first thing I'm going to do is multiply both sides by 2. So I put that up there, I put that up there. Because what happens? Right? 2 divided by 2 is 1. 1 times anything doesn't change it. So I'm left with x plus 5 on that side. And then over here I have 1 times 2, which gives me 2. Now this is pretty simple to figure out. I didn't multiply or divide by a negative number, so I'm good there. Now be careful when you're doing your number line for negatives. So first of all, there's no equal sign, so it's an open circle. And then the question is, which numbers are less than negative 3? And be careful, that will go that direction. Okay. Next one, number 5. I'm going to start by getting rid of this. Again, how do I get rid of a positive 25? Subtract. Okay. Careful, negative 3 minus 25 gives me a negative 28. And now, to get rid of this, to undo it, I have to divide by a negative 4. Well, if I divide by a negative number, what happens? My sign flips, and a negative divided by a negative is a positive. Okay, so, and this time it is also equal to, so it's filled in, and then x says numbers that are less than or equal to 7. So I'm going to head to the left on that one. All right, and then last one that we'll do together. It looks similar in terms of the first step, right? The first thing I have to get rid of is this. And if it's a positive 5, how do I do that? I subtract. Okay. So now this is where it gets a little tricky. Don't forget about that negative sign. Okay. Now this negative is going to get in my way, so I'm going to have to deal with it, and it's probably the best thing to deal with it right now. So, right, it says x is being divided by 3, or really I could even think of it like x is being divided by a negative 3. So how do I undo that? I would multiply both sides by a negative 3, okay? But if I multiply by a negative number, what happens? Flip the sign, and then I have a positive times a negative, which gives me a negative. So be careful, I know that one looked a little tricky. If there's another one like that, make sure you use this one as an example. And then to graph that, again, remember, be careful in the negatives, which is lower and which is higher. And this says x is not equal to, so it's open, and then once again, x is less than negative 18. Okay, use these as an example and do the other ones for me. Thanks, hope it goes well.